barn burner at Arrowhead. Chiefs storming back in the fourth quarter. So one final chance for Baker and the Browns to drive and win. Down 4. Baker, though, picked off by Mike Hughes. The Chiefs get win number 1 of 20, according to Nick. But, Mike, let's zero in on Baker. Was this a good game or a bad game from Baker Mayfield?
This was a good game for Baker, and obviously a game that Baker's going to learn from. I think he did all the right things, especially up into the fourth quarter, where he only had maybe 4 or 5 incomplete passes, very efficient. He was able to spread the ball around and use the run game to his advantage. But, you know, there were some critical points in the game. I think the fumble by Bradley Chubb was the big turnaround. That was the big turnaround in the game. I'm sorry, Nick Chubb. But that was the turning point in the game. You know, from that point, I felt like they just couldn't recover. And, you know, it's going to be times in games where things aren't going your way. And for Baker Mayfield, I think this is going to be an opportunity to learn from this game, because you got to take the onus on yourself. And, you know, you have a fumble, you have a turnover, a sudden change. When you get that ball back, you got to be sacred with it. And there were times where they just didn't finish drives. So the moral of the story is this. You know, they'll learn to finish games. And you get a team like Kansas City down and you up by 12 points in the third quarter, everybody, not just Baker, got to learn to finish. And it's going to be very important moving forward. But I think this would be a good stepping stone, a good, you know, tape to watch. It'll be good film to learn from. But obviously they'll meet again down the road. And I think it'll be an exciting matchup for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mike. It's easy to just look at the box score, say, wow, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. It was a late interception as they were trying to march to win the game, and conclude that he played poorly. But I think he played a solid game. And I know he only had the 0 touchdowns, but last year when people raved about Baker's improvement, he had several games where he didn't throw a touchdown. What he was doing was playing smart. He wasn't making the mistakes. And yesterday, they scored 29 points. That should be enough to win a football game. And if it weren't, and Nick's going to kill it, but the dropped punt, all right, giving Kansas City the short field at the end of the game, I mean, come on. And I know the interception, I'm not going to kill him for the late interception because he was trying to make a play. Yeah, he should have probably just eaten it and taken the sack, but he didn't know that he was going to get clipped right as he was throwing the ball. I think he's trying to throw it out of bounds, and when he got clipped, it took some air off of it. It was a bad throw. I mean, clearly the guy was covered. So, but I'm not going to kill him for that because overall, he played a solid game. He didn't try to do too much except for that play, and he will learn from these mistakes and improve.
Okay. All right, I don't care about the dropped punt at all because it implies that the Chiefs, if it was a regular punt, wouldn't have just marched down the field. But so I'm going to set that aside.
Well,
this was, in my opinion, for the Browns' chances of making a deep playoff run, a perfect result, including the ending. And here's why. The Browns, had they won, would have tricked themselves into believing, oh, we're as good as Kansas City. We can beat Kansas City by the old fake blueprint. Run the ball, control time of possession. You can't. You know how you can beat Kansas City? If your quarterback can make the drive at the end of the game that Patrick Mahomes can. Down 4, with the ball, 2 minutes, I got us. And I support Baker and I defend Baker. Baker's not there yet. And you know what? He needed to be reminded he's not there yet, so maybe at the end of the year he can be. Because if they had won this game with the Nick Chubb, we're running the ball, we're running the ball, we're running the ball, then that's not sustainable or duplicable. Every team has tried it. Nobody has succeeded at it. Nobody. That's not how the Bucs beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Bucs beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl by kicking the Chiefs' butts on defense, which was very circumstantial. If you think you can do that, good luck, go try it. But it wasn't this ball control. If you want to beat the Chiefs, you need to have a quarterback who can, at least for a moment, go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. And if the Browns had won that game, I think they are wild, a team that could have felt like, oh, look at us. Look at us. And now instead, Baker has to eat it a little bit, which will be good for him. Stefanski has to know, I called this great game for 3 quarters, and then I made some mistakes myself late in the game, and now they can get better. Because you're not going to beat the Chiefs if your quarterback can't do what Baker had the opportunity to do. Take the ball, have it last, score with no time left for Mahomes. He's not there yet. We'll see if he gets there, but I actually think this was a perfect loss for the Browns if they are trying to go on a deep playoff run.
Okay, I strongly buy about half of what you're selling. The thing that I will buy is that the Browns are a resilient team, and this loss might actually be good for them. Just like in Week 1 last year, they lost to the Ravens. They sort of got more focused and then started to win games. Thing that I do not buy, and that no NFL fan, player, coach, executive buys, is that you think the punt, the fumbled, bungled punt, was a non-consequential point of this game. To the point where I'll ask you a simple question. When you saw that punt go sideways and the punter says, you know what? I saw Tyreek running. I've seen Kareem Hunt running. I've seen Nick Chubb running. I'm going to start running. Were you celebrating in front of your television, or were you just sitting here like this, analytical Nick, like, oh, that actually field position doesn't matter. We would have driven them down the field either way. Or did you celebrate like a child on Christmas morning when you saw this ball hit the ground?
To be honest, it actually was option 3, and Dusty was there with me. I was worried. Watch the very end of this play. I thought they face masked him at the very end. I was worried there was going to be a flag. You'll see it from the other angle, and that the Browns are going to get a free first down. Again, Mike, I just have a question. For everyone acting like right there, I thought was a face mask. Everyone's saying this was the play. I'm just curious, given how the game was going, what the crowd was doing, what Mahomes was doing. If this is a regular punt, the Chiefs get the ball, call it around their own 40. You think the Browns were keeping them out of not even out of the end zone, out of field goal range? It's a 2-point game. You think if he just kicks the ball, the Chiefs aren't putting points on the board? Does anyone actually think that?
Not at all. I'll just say this. I was watching the broadcast yesterday, and Boomer Esiason said something at halftime. He was like, after coming out of the half, if the Cleveland Browns don't take advantage of the opportunities that's going to be given, I think they got the ball coming out of the half. He said, if the Kansas City Chiefs get the ball back and they don't score, then it's going to be tough for the Cleveland Browns to win the game. And it's meaning they needed to come out of halftime, they needed to score some touchdowns, or they needed to just put some points on the board. If not, Patrick Mahomes was going to get the ball back and he was going to mount a comeback. And that's what happened. And that's why I think the moral of the story is you got to learn to finish. If you give a team like the Kansas City Chiefs opportunities late in the game, they're going to score touchdowns.
Yeah. Nick, you're not crazy for saying that Kansas City would have marched down the field and scored. But the circumstances of the game are entirely, we don't know what would have happened, all right? And then Cleveland gets the ball at a different point in time in the game, and maybe they march. Like, circumstances change. That was a horrible play for the Browns, and you know it. And it was just one of 3 turnovers, or if we call that a turnover, which it was basically like a turnover. They had 2 other turnovers, the Mayfield interception and the Nick Chubb fumble. They didn't force any on Kansas City's part. So Cleveland is looking in the mirror and saying, if we don't kill ourselves, then we can win this game. I bet you they think they're better than Kansas